Jai Gurudev. Jai Masters. The Buddhists have a saying, right understanding. It's one of the Eightfold Path of liberation. Right understanding, like everything else, has many different levels. The deepest level of right understanding is to rightly understand what's going on. Do you know what's going on? Do you have a clear picture of your predicament, of what is going on? Most people, meaning almost everybody, do not. Why? Let's usually start from the lower and build to the higher. Let's start from the higher. Let's talk about what's going on. Right understanding. Right understanding is that you, the consciousness, the awareness of being, you who sees your thoughts, you who hears the sounds, you who tastes the taste, touches the touch, you who feels your heart, you are conscious, you are in there, you're aware being. Your nature, you have a nature. In the scriptures it's called Satchidananda, eternal conscious ecstasy. Those are not just words. Just like if you say, oh my God, I got blown away, I felt so much love. Those are not just words. Those are experiences. Your nature, the nature of everybody's being, the essence, the core, that which sees and experiences everything else, is constant, perpetual, eternal ecstasy, nirvana. Call it whatever you want. Christ's heaven, Buddha's nirvana. That's your nature. Just like the nature of this piano is to be plastic and it's what it is. It's the way it is. Nature of your body is to be frail but amazing. It has a nature. Nature of rain is it's wet. The nature of consciousness is ecstasy. Sat-chit Ananda, eternal conscious ecstasy. So that's right understanding. But what good is that? Because we don't experience it very often. Like very infrequently do you experience it unless you've done tremendous work on yourself. So that's the first right understanding, the first level, is that right now, everything you ever dreamt of times 7 billion is experienced inside of you. It is going on inside of you. It is always there. There is nothing you or anyone else will ever do to diminish it. It is the nature of consciousness, and you are conscious. A bad person is conscious, a good person is conscious. A female is conscious, a male is conscious. If you are conscious, you have that nature. Animals are conscious, aware, but not as aware. They are further removed from the awareness. So they can feel joy, they can feel something, but not like you can. They say only a human has reached the state of evolution to be able to experience the fullness of consciousness. Man was created in the image of God. In the ancient scriptures, the Hindi scriptures, the yoga scriptures, there's a name for God. Oh, Satchidananda. There's a name for the nature of your soul, of your being, Satchidananda. Well, that's weird. No, man was created in the image of God. It's just how it is. They are the same thing. Your consciousness, the universal consciousness, there's just something called consciousness. The question is not, are you of God? The question is not, can you do anything to not be of God? No. If you are conscious, that is consciousness. And consciousness is divine. Consciousness is the highest thing that could ever exist in the universe. It's what gives meaning to everything. If things exist but nobody ever was conscious of them, well, what value are they? Nothing. But become conscious of something, you gave it life, you gave it value, you gave it purpose, meaning. So, if that's true, and it is, why don't I experience that? Now we come to the next level of right understanding. Let's say I took you to the most beautiful place that could ever be outside. Just, gorgeous mountains and streams and valleys, and you high and you looked over it. It was just, it was breathtaking. It was just gorgeous. But 10 feet away from you, there was this noise, a rustle from the bushes over there. Do you know how you could miss the entire experience of the beauty I took you to? By paying attention to the rustle that's happening over there 10 feet away from you. If you are distracted by that noise, by that movement, your consciousness will shift over to what you've been distracted by. That's what distraction means, is that it captures consciousness and pulls it toward it. It was distracting. It pulled my consciousness toward it. If it pulls your consciousness toward it, then you are no longer experiencing the beauty of the place I took you. If I took you there, and before you had a chance to look, you heard the rustle, and you looked over there, and it captured your attention, your fear, your anxiety, so much so that you never looked out at where I had taken you, then you didn't see it. You didn't experience it. It was not part of your life. It was not part of your being. They'd say, what did you see when you were taken up to this beautiful mountain? It's scary. I felt this rustle. I felt this movement. Do you understand that? That's right understanding. You experience where your consciousness is. Well, why am I wasting my time? So try to talk about such a thing. Because that's why you don't experience the ecstasy. And that is the only reason you don't experience the ecstasy. It is there exactly the same as the beautiful vista where I took you is. If you look at it, it's there. Why am I not looking at it? Because you're more interested in the rustle, the noise, the movement that is happening 10 feet from you in the bushes than you are in seeing the beauty that's in front of you. So your consciousness doesn't know its nature. It knows the nature of the rustle, of the movement, because that's where you put your consciousness. So inside, I assure you, there is this flow of constant ecstasy. We'll talk about how you can understand that, but a flow of constant ecstasy, so much so that you are intoxicated. You can't even see straight. You can't even open your eyes because it's so beautiful inside. That is going on inside of you. Well, why don't I experience it? For the exact same reason that you don't see the beautiful vista that I took you to. It is not that the vista is not there. You put your consciousness somewhere else. And if you put your consciousness somewhere else, you don't experience where you didn't put your consciousness. Do you understand that? If you do, you understand all of spirituality. Your consciousness is not aware of its nature. Why? Because it's aware of the nature of your mind. It's aware of the nature of your heart. It's aware of the nature of the colors outside. It's aware of the nature of the sounds that are outside. It's aware of the nature of how you feel about your girlfriend or your wife, your husband. It's aware of something else. Therefore, its consciousness is drawn down there. Now, I purposely picked some things that sound like, well, some things aren't good and some things are good. I couldn't care if it's good or not good. That's what it means, non-dual. It doesn't make a difference if you're distracted by something holy and beautiful and special. You're distracted from the seat of self so that you can't experience what's going on inside of you because you're busy experiencing what's going on outside of you. And your thoughts are outside of you. They are things you experience. They are things you look at. They are things you see. You can see thoughts if they visualize. You see them. Who sees them? The one who's in ecstasy sees the thought. Whether the thought is pure, whether the thought is impure, whether the thought's about God, whether the thought's about the devil. Doesn't make any difference. You are being distracted. Makes a slight difference. We'll talk about it later. You are being distracted by a thought. The difference is if you're not being distracted by your thought, not which thought you're being distracted by. If you are distracted by it, then your consciousness is there. It's not experiencing the state of greatness that I talked to you about, which I'm telling you is inside you right now. Give me someone who's totally depressed, they've been completely depressed for years, they're thinking about suicide, ecstasy is going on inside of them. Well, why don't they feel it? Because they're looking at the suicidal thoughts. They're being distracted from the beauty that's inside. It's not that it's not there. The sun is always shining. Even in the middle of night, there is no night. There's no time that the sun is not shining. Just go out there. It's just been there for 4.5 billion years shining. If you want to sit on the part of the planet that spins away from it, okay, you're not going to see it. But don't tell me the sun's not shining. You're not facing the sun. You're looking at other things. That is right understanding. That's right understanding, which is what? Everything I've ever sought, everything I ever wanted, beyond anything I ever wanted, is who I am. Well, why don't I experience that? Because you are much more interested in your thoughts. If somebody doesn't say hello to you, who's a friend of yours, and your thought says, what's wrong with me? What did I do? You are more interested in that than the ecstasy that's going on inside of you. It's like you're interested in what your thoughts have to say. Are you not? You're completely interested. You just sit there and listen to them all the time. Why did she do that? I don't know. Maybe I should go here. I don't know. But I'm trying to make myself happy by thinking. No, you're ruining your happiness by thinking about what will make you happy. You're ruining your happiness by thinking about what made you sad. It doesn't matter. If you are thinking and you are paying attention to your thoughts, you are not paying attention to the nature of the consciousness. You're paying attention. We talk about consciousness and object of consciousness. Flashlight and that which it's shining on. Those are very different things, aren't they? At what point does the thing the flashlight's shining on become the flashlight? Never. Never. The flashlight is the source of light, and the object is where the light is falling. Your consciousness is the source of awareness, the source of being. What it is conscious of is just like what the flashlight's falling on. So I don't care what the thought is. Sorry, I'm a yogi, I'm a non-dualist. A thought's a thought. If you're distracted by a good thought, you're distracted by a bad thought, you're still distracted. It's as simple as that. The question becomes, what happens if I'm not distracted? What happens if I'm not distracted? If somehow something happens, and it's awkward, you'll have to understand it, that something happens that, in essence, like seeing a sunset that's so beautiful, you feel joy. You can feel spirituality inside of you. Why? Because that sunset was so powerful that you had been distracted by 30 thoughts, 40 emotions, and 50 different inputs through your senses. Now you became one-pointed. That's why they meditate on a candle. There's nothing holy about a candle. Right? It's like God is not inside the candle. It is because normally your consciousness is all over the place. You're not distracted by one thing. You're distracted by this emotion, this subconscious thought, plus this conscious thought, plus what's coming in through every one of your five senses. You're distracted by what happened 5 minutes ago, even though it's not happening anymore. You're in big trouble. You're distracted by what happened 15 years ago that mommy did, or that your first husband or wife did. Wow, you can get pretty distracted, can't you? All right? If the sunset is so beautiful that it pulls your consciousness to a state of one-pointedness, you are way less distracted because you are focused on one thing. And because you are not scattered all over the place, you feel more of the sense of self because it's quieter inside. A sunset can make you quiet. Say that. It made me quiet. I got so quiet inside. All right? Meditation makes you quiet. If somebody tells you, not passion, but somebody tells you, I love you, I've always loved you, and you love them, it gets quiet inside. Why? Because you are so interested in what they are saying that you forget about the mortgage, you forget about what mommy did 15 years ago, you forget about your ex, and all of a sudden, instead of all this scatteredness going on inside that's pulling your consciousness in 1,000 directions, it becomes one-pointed. That's why yoga works with one-pointedness. That's why that's a mindfulness about one-pointedness. There's nothing particularly holy about it, except it's way less distracting. How do you like that? So now we're talking about degrees of distraction. If you are less distracted, it gets quieter inside. By now, I shouldn't have to explain it. Why? Because you're not scattered all over the place, making it all noisy. Okay? If you're listening to beautiful music and there's nothing but static going on all the time, it's very hard to hear the music. If you're listening to the music, but it's not a perfect radio and there's a tiny little bit of static in the background, that's a big difference. You've eliminated much of the noise. When you become pulled into a sunset, it gets quieter than it was 5 minutes ago or 2 minutes ago before you saw the sunset. You were driving down the street thinking about 30 different things, feeling a bunch of things, not to mention subconsciously, right? And different things are happening. You're smoking, listening to things, whatever the heck you're doing. Now all of a sudden you turn the corner and there's this sunset. It catches you by surprise, and all of a sudden this thing happens. It certainly happened to you. Nature can do it, right? This thing happened. What? I'm not thinking about the stuff I was thinking about anymore. Why? It distracted me. Good. I'm not feeling all the things that I was feeling before, all the fears and anxieties and needs and self-consciousness and embarrassment. Why? It distracted me. Good. I'm not all over the place doing things, eating and doing stuff and texting while I'm driving. I'm not doing that anymore. Why? It distracted me from all of that. Well, if you had 40 different things going on inside and out, and now there's one, that's quieter, isn't it? That's less distracted. And because you are less distracted and the consciousness gets pulled down to one-pointedness, you are closer to experiencing self. That's why you can see a sunset and say, no, you don't understand. It was like a spiritual experience. When I was in his arms the first time he kissed me, I just melted completely. I felt like I was holding. I'd never before have I felt God was holding me. It's poetic. It's beautiful. It's also true. Right? You literally are closer to God. Why? Because that's your nature. That's your nature. And because you're not scattered all over the place and it all gets pulled back toward one-pointedness, you're able to experience more of yourself. And what you feel, every bit of joy you have ever felt is coming from inside of you. That sunset. Go just get divorced and have your husband, your ex, tell you that you're getting divorced while the sun is setting. The most beautiful sunset. It takes that time. Nice guy, right? That's why you're divorcing him, right? And he says, I just wanted to tell you, right? I filed for divorce yesterday, right? I tell you, a year later when you see a sunset, you're not going to go into ecstasy. You get depressed. Why? Because it won't distract your consciousness. What it will do is bring back up that terrible moment where you got all upset and all the garbage that happened during the divorce, and now you're going to be very distracted, aren't you? The sunset distracted you, but not by pulling it into it, by pulling up all your garbage, which distract. I could just talk about this forever. Do you understand this? That's what's going on. Things don't turn you on and turn you off. You are the highest on that could ever be. Things either distract you a lot and distract you because of negative experiences so that your consciousness gets very distracted by negative things. If I bring some great saint in this room and there happens to be a 20-foot rattlesnake over there, I wonder which one you're going to pay attention to. Things that scare you, things that don't feel good, they distract you a lot. Experience you've had in the past that didn't feel good, they still distract you. So the question about your experiences in life, it's so sad. Everybody wants to go out there and have more experiences and have good experiences and see more sunsets and go to more places and have more relationships and do different things. It's like, what are you doing? You don't understand. What you're seeking is the experience that is your own being. And what's happening is you're so distracted by your everyday life and your everyday thoughts and your everyday feelings and all the garbage you stored inside yourself from the past that you need to see a sunset to feel okay. You need to go to Hawaii and have it be just perfect. If you go to Hawaii and there's roaches in the room, I quite didn't do it, did it? If you go to Hawaii and there's a volcano near your hotel, it wasn't supposed to be, right? It has to be just right to not have your thoughts stimulated and your emotions stimulated so that they distract you. Does everyone understand that? So you're living, your whole life is based on not understanding this. That's why it's called right understanding. Once you understand, what I seek is inside of me. What I seek is what I experience when I'm not distracted by the things that pull me away from myself. Okay, that's the foundation. Now, that's where a lot of these interesting spiritual teachings come from, like renunciation. Let's talk about it. So let's say I've decided that I know that I've titled it, it's beautiful in there, but I keep getting distracted. I get distracted by the opposite sex. I get distracted by money. I get distracted by boats and cars and Tesla, and different things, right? You get distracted by all kinds of things, don't you? You get distracted by things that happened in the past and things that might happen. You get distracted by things that didn't even happen. You can think about a thought about what might happen 20 years from now and get distracted by it. You literally decided to hang out with that thought instead of hang out with the ecstasy. A very wise choice. So let's say you caught on. I'm talking very deep to you tonight. You caught on and you realize, well, that's what's going on. It's true. I feel joy when it gets quiet inside. But different things make it quiet. That's because different things catch your attention. Okay? If you're into tall, dark, handsome men, okay, then the opposite doesn't distract you. But if something looks just the way you always looked in the magazines, you can't take your eyes off of it. And you feel joy, and you feel love, and you feel attraction. You do not feel it for that person. What's the matter with you? You're feeling it inside of you. The thing is that you have all these things that distract you, and now something has happened outside which is strong enough to pull your attention toward it so you're not distracted by yourself. Why do you like going to movies? I like going to movies. Why do you like going to movies? How would you like to go to a movie, sit down with a couple of strangers next to you on both sides, and have the movie play for 2 hours, and the entire time you're sitting there in the theater wondering what those people are doing and what are you going to do when you leave? What would you say about that movie? Boring. It didn't catch my attention at all. Was the movie able to hold your attention? Look at your words. You know what you're talking about. You're not paying attention. You go to the movie so that it will distract you from yourself. You hear me? So you're not thinking about the mortgage. So you're not thinking about your relationship problems. So you're not thinking about what you're supposed to be doing tomorrow instead of watching the movie. Okay? You want it to distract you. If you sat down, and the moment you sat down, it captured your consciousness and it never came back for 2 hours. You would say it's the greatest movie you ever saw. You tell everybody to go see it. You want to see it again. Okay? By the way, it won't do it again. It won't do it again. Why? Because you will be expecting what happens next, and that's a distraction. That's why it's so hard to recreate experiences that you had, even if you make the whole outside look exactly the same, because you already had the experience. So now your mind is already conditioned for that. Okay? Go see the sunset, have it blow you away, and make the gross mistake of telling all your friends that is the most unbelievable thing that ever was, and get them all together to go with you the next day to look at the sunset. Right? You're going to get so embarrassed that it doesn't look exactly the same as before. You'll be saying, well, there was more purple last time. I'm sure, maybe tomorrow. Ever done it? Okay? Because you have expectations. Because you have distractions. It may well be that your friend would be just as distracted as you were, but you won't let it happen because you're busy talking, apologizing, or they say, oh, look at that, because you want to make sure that they enjoy. You hear me? You got ego going on. Those are distractions that are keeping you from having the experience you had the first time, which caught you by surprise. So everything you're seeking, I'm not going to say it's absurd, but what you're trying to do is find things that will distract you from your distractions. Yeah, he used to knock me off my feet. What does that mean? He distracted me. Okay? It was unbelievable, and I look forward to seeing him all the time. All right? So on and so forth. Until I saw him talk to Sally. I don't like Sally. I don't know why he knows Sally. And they were talking pretty close. I wonder what's going on, right? Now, how do you feel? Does he knock you off your feet? No. Why? Because every time I see him now, this comes up. Yes or no? All right? The mind comes up, and I get distracted by that, so I'm not really experiencing this person anymore. Do you understand? Yes or no? You don't act like you do out there, okay? And it's just like, then you blame him or blame this or, okay, how's your relationship? It's over, all right? It's not working out anymore. What does that mean? It's not distracting me. It's not doing for me what I wanted it to do, okay? You really think another person's going to fix you. It ain't going to happen. Do you understand that? That's an absurd thing to try to do with your relationship. To sit there and say, but when I first met you, I felt so much love, and you opened the door for me, you swept me off my feet. Why are you not doing that anymore? I want to find someone who does. Have fun, because you won't. So understand what's happening. So now when you understand, you sit there and say, what do I do about it? Well, some people, I'm not teaching you this, some people say, well, there are things that distract you. Have you noticed that? Sugar, candy, some personal relationships, this, that, the other thing. They're things that distract you. Give them up. You listen to me. I'm teaching you very deeply here. Give them up. Stay away from them. Have nothing to do with them. Why? They distract you. Okay, it's called renunciation. Lots of spiritual teachings are based on renunciation. Do you understand that? Okay? Like the priests renounce and the monks renounce and everybody renounces everything. That's why that became a technique, a methodology, because it is true that if you are distracted by wanting to eat more, by wanting to have more relationship, by having more this, by having more money, having, whatever it is, if you're distracted by that, then you're distracted by that. It means it pulled you away from yourself. Now, notice, I'm not teaching you renunciation. I never do. But I want you to understand why other people do, or why it's big on the hit parade in spirituality, okay, and all the traditions. So if you have this issue and it is distracting you, what are you going to do? Because you can't experience the self when you don't come back to self. And this is keeping you from self by definition because you're distracted. That which distracts you doesn't distract him. I was telling you, want to practice renunciation? All right? Take something you don't like at all, Brussels sprouts and mung beans. You guys probably like it. I don't, all right? Brussels sprouts and mung beans, all right? And when you go to Lent or, Ash Wednesday, whatever it is, right? Renounce Brussels sprouts and mung beans. The priest is going to tell you, do you like those? Nobody likes those. No, I hate them. Well, then you can't renounce those. That's not renunciation. So it's basically teaching you exactly what I'm teaching you. There are things that distract you. What are you going to do about that? If you let them distract you, you will not know yourself because you're busy knowing them. It's not like you're going to go to hell later, right? You're just not going to experience the greatness that's inside of you because you're experiencing that instead. There's anything, people say, is something wrong with that? It's not a question of right or wrong. It's a question of, do you want to experience the nature of your being? Or do you want to keep running around looking for experiences that temporarily will distract you from your garbage so that 0.00001% of your life you can feel some joy and some love? And you're busy. You're busy trying to keep it, to get it, to figure out what it's, yes or no, trying to figure out what it is that you want, how to get it, how to keep it, come on. All right? So that's one way to live, is to let your things distract you and then let them run your life. Let your distractions run your life. Yes, I really think about relationships all the time, and I have a lot of trouble without it, and I get lonely, and I have this problem, and I have needs, and all these things. So does that distract you? Yeah, I can't meditate. I can't do anything, right? I just need to take care of that. I need to take care of that. I need to find somebody, so I don't have that. Good luck. Good luck. Why? If you find somebody, they will distract you. By definition, you're trying to find something to distract you. You're trying to have something that will distract you from your loneliness, distract you from your needs, distract you from all these problems, okay? And some people ask me, okay, so you see, it's not about right or wrong. I always tell you, it is not about right or wrong. It is about what works. Well, what works for what? You decide that. If you decide, no, Mickey, it's a nice talk, it's very interesting, but I am big on relationships, I'm big on money, I'm big on success, I'm big on whatever it is, doesn't matter. I don't care what it is, all right? I'm not judging it. The point is, it is distracting you from self. How do you know? Are you in ecstasy? Every time you sit down, every time you do anything, is it hard to keep your eyes open? Is there so much joy welling up inside of you, the rush of holy waters, that it just pulls you inside and you just go into ecstasy anytime you close your eyes? No, why not? Well, because my girlfriend sees somebody else, and I thought, thinking the business isn't doing as well as I thought it would do, and the numbers aren't what they should be, and I'm afraid to do the board meeting. I got, oh, because you're distracted. That's the part you don't understand. Those are distractions, and therefore they are pulling your consciousness away from the seat of self. Now, what are you going to do about it? Like I said, some people, before renunciation, some people say, I'll be okay when I get what I want. Take a breath. In other words, it's distracting me. I'll be okay when I get what's distracting me. Oh, when you get it, it won't distract you. So when you're so in need of a relationship that you're lonely and cry all the time and just totally distracted by that, now you find somebody who's doting over you and you feel really good about that. They won't distract you, right? You won't want to be with them. You won't wonder where they are when they're gone. You won't sit by the phone and wait for them to call. You'll just go right into ecstasy, into the self all the time, right? Not a chance in the world. You get just as distracted, if not more so, by having the object of distraction than not having the object of distraction. Who's willing to understand that, right? That's called the maturity of your soul, right? If it's about distraction, and it is, but no one will talk to you like this, then it's not about which, what, this, have, not have. That's what they say. It's beyond doing and not doing. It's beyond Tamas, Rajas, and Sattvan. It's beyond darkness, passion, and sufalness, goodness. Those are things that distract you. It's about coming into harmony with the being that's experiencing the stuff instead of being pulled away from yourself with the stuff. That's the essence of spirituality. Okay? Christ said the kingdom is within you. That's right. That's everything I'm teaching you. But you're busy looking for it outside. Right? So what you'll tend to do, if you don't pay attention, by default, what you're going to do is things are going to distract you. Either they distract you because you're scared of them, you don't want them, so they distract you, don't they? Go to a party where your ex might be there recently after you got divorced. Do you understand? You're going to look for the guy. Have you seen him? Is he here? It's going to distract you. And if you saw him, you'll probably leave. It will distract you tremendously. So you catch on that that's what's happening. So whether it's something you want or something you don't want, shake your head. Do you understand that what you want and that what you don't want distracts you? That's what distracts you, all right? But yet in normal culture, which believe me, that's all that's going on, is everybody's about want and not want. It's all about getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want. There is no benefit to that. If you're afraid that something might happen and it doesn't happen, that does not make you not afraid that it might not happen later. If a doctor says, oh my God, I think of this terrible disease, and you get all weirded out and you go back and say, I'm looking at the wrong x-ray, I'm so sorry. You're not going to not be weirded out. Now you know how terrible it would feel to have that terrible disease. And you sit there and say, well, how do I avoid that disease? You say, you don't have it. I know, but I got scared about it. So I want to know, I'm going to read everything I can about how not to get that disease and determine what I eat and where I go and who I hang out with and what places I visit. And you hear me? What countries I go. There's no ending it. If it distracts you, it distracts you. If it's distracting you because you don't like it, or distracting because you do like it, you are being pulled away from the seat of self. That's why I spent this time in the beginning to understand right understanding what's going on. All right, so one methodology people use by default is it's distracting me. I'm madly in love with you, and you don't seem to pay attention to me. I need to figure out what to do to get you to pay attention. I need to get flowers. I need to do this. I need to drive up in a Ferrari. I need to do something. I need to do something, don't I? Okay? In other words, I need to get the object of distraction, and that becomes your whole life. Get the object of distraction and avoid the object of negative distraction. Just basically either get it or avoid it based on what it's doing to you. All right? That's your whole life. That's it. Goodbye. I'm not picking on it. Have fun. All right? Because I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you get it or don't get it. It doesn't matter if you avoid it or don't avoid it. You ain't coming back to the self because you're living in the world of distraction. It's all the mind, the heart, the things, the sense, everything outside. All right? So that doesn't work. What doesn't work? Getting what you want doesn't work. I'm sorry to tell you. You've gotten what you want plenty of times. Are you enlightened? Are you feeling ecstasy pour through your being at all times? You have no more needs, nothing at all? No, you got it. When you were little, you got it. When you were middle, got it. There's all kinds of stuff you got, right? It didn't do squat. It didn't, for momentarily, it does. If it distracts you from what was bothering you at the time, it got better. But then it became the thing that distracted you. You got married. Why? Because it distracted me from all of my problems. Now you're getting a divorce. Why? It is the problem. How did that happen? Okay, it's beautiful. Wake up. So, though people that have caught on to that, they talk about renunciation. What does that mean? If it's distracting you, don't have anything to do with it. Stay away from it. Don't look at it. Don't talk about it. Don't go places where it is. And that goes for a lot of things. People renounce a lot of things. It's really beautiful, right? It's just one problem. How did you decide what to renounce? Well, it was the thing that distracted me. If you're busy not doing what's distracting you, is that not distracting you? So this thing about renouncing what's distracting you, it's the intent is very nice. It's better than chasing after it and thinking it's going to give you what you want, right? But what you end up doing is being distracted by not being distracted. You have to make sure you don't do this, and you get all that, and people get ulcers, and right? Yes, it is true that if you are neurotic about the opposite sex or the same sex, doesn't matter. If you're neurotic about people, if you're neurotic about money, if you're neurotic about houses, if you're neurotic about cars, and then you've been spending your whole life chasing after it, there's a period of time in which, because you decided not to chase after it, you won't be as distracted as putting all of your energy into being distracted. You understand that? You're not participating in the distraction. And so there is a certain amount of quietude, but later on, you just suppressed. Okay, so what is the alternative? How do you really grow here if you understand that what it's all about, and it is not being distracted? If you're like the spiritual state is as natural as it is for you to look at that wall. See it? How hard was that? I don't understand. That's right, because that's how easy it is. It's your nature. You understand that? You were given eyes, let those have eyes to see, you can see. When you reach the deeper states, there's no effort. There's no will. You're not meditating. You're not forcing anything, alternate nostril breathing or doing anything. You're just there. You're there. Why? Because you're not being pulled out. It's not because you did something to get there. It's because you're not being distracted from being there. What if you weren't being distracted? What if you weren't being distracted? The consciousness wouldn't be distracted. Well, where would it be? It would be in the seat of self. That's what it's called. In the seat of self, your Buddha nature. There's little names for it. Okay, they're hard to talk about, right? It would be naturally in a seat of consciousness that isn't being distracted by objects of consciousness. And then what are you going to feel? You're going to feel ecstasy. Period. I'm telling you. You're going to feel joy. You're just going to sit there and feel joy pouring through your whole being. Well, it's not kind of hard to not be distracted by that. That pulls you into it. That's the flow of the Shakti. That's what so Christians talk about, the flow of spirit, the rush of holy waters. I was in the spirit on the Lord's day. Yogis talk about the Kundalini coming up and the Shakti pouring out the higher chakras. It's all the same stuff. It doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter anything. You got the same stuff going on inside. If you're conscious, you're conscious. The fact that you're conscious of Christianity, you're conscious of Judaism, you're conscious of Hinduism, you're conscious of atheism, I don't care. It's just something to be conscious of. The question is, are you conscious of being conscious? That's where it is, okay? So basically, the question becomes, if I understand this, what do I do? If going after it just makes more commotion, and you know it does, okay, right? And if renouncing it just creates suppression and all kinds of things that they sit on top of Mount Vesuvius, and it does, then what is the path? The path is so logical. It is so simple, not simple to do, but simple to understand and comprehend. If you walk in front of me and nothing happens, and you walk in front of me and nothing happens, but you walk in front of me and I get weird, then you distracted me. Why? Instead of what do I do about it? I always teach you this. It's not what do I do about the fact that she distracted me and they didn't. It's a very analytical, simple, deep spiritual question. Why? They're both people. They're all people, right? They all happen to be females, whatever. They're about the same height, right? Why, when that walked in front of me, did I get distracted? But when this and that walked in front of me, it didn't. Did I have to try real hard not to get distracted when you all walked in front of me? No. Trees go by me, white lines on the road go by me, clouds go by. There's lots of things don't distract me, right or wrong. Like most things don't distract me. 99.999% of things don't distract me. All right? Then why do the .001? That's how you do this. That's right understanding. You don't fight with distraction. You don't try to end it by getting it, because that doesn't do squat. It seems like it does. It's hard to talk to you, right? Oh, no, if I get what I want, I'll be totally happy. Yeah, for how long? How long? Come on. How long before you want something else or it disappoints you or whatever the heck it is? All right? Yeah, but at least I felt joy for a moment. Fine. Live with your moments. I'm not interested in moments. I'm interested in the spiritual state of being where nothing ever goes away and you just live in that state forever. All right. So first, if it distracts you, what am I going to do? Well, you try to get it, and you can be very distracted. All right? I'll try to not get it. I'll try to not go with that part of me. I'll renounce it and push it away. Then, okay, fine. So you'll live on top of it all the time. It'll be there wanting to come back up. Okay? Or you do real spiritual work, which says, wait a minute, most things don't distract me. A few of them do, either for or against. Why? I don't remember deciding. I don't remember waking up in the morning, one from column A, two from column B. This is my distractions for the day. It just happens, doesn't it? It's just a spontaneous thing. Just all of a sudden, I saw this person and she distracted me, right? And I saw this person, I got scared. Why? And don't tell me God did it. God didn't do it. Right? God's back here. Remember that. You get to know God, come back to the seat of self. You will know the divine. That's why Christ said the kingdom is within you. So all that stuff going on, don't you dare blame it on God or give credit to God. God wants me to go after this person. You have no idea how much attraction I felt. It must have been, yeah, it must have been. All right? I mean, there are things, there are subtle things, but until we're back to the subtle, let's deal with the gross. So basically, why do I get distracted by something and you don't? Why do I not? I'll tell you what, it's not just me and you. There are things that distracted you last year that don't distract you this year. There are things that didn't distract you last year that distract the hell out of you right now. Whoa. And I didn't have to say last year. It could be 10 minutes ago. Listen to me, okay? What is going on? That's when you do spiritual work. Instead of messing with it, try to understand it. Master Yogananda once said that meditation was entering the laboratory of soul research. All right? That's what you're doing. That's what witness consciousness is. Am I willing to look and see why this is happening, not what to do about it? And in most cases, you might as well just stop me and say, no, I'm not willing to. If I feel a distraction because I want something, I will go get it. I haven't woken up yet. That's what I'm good. By all means, let me know if I can help you. All right? Or if I feel scared of something, I'll run away from it. I don't have anything to do with it. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not interested. Fine. That means you're not interested. I don't have a problem with that. Okay? But should you understand that you're not going to get anywhere? You spent your whole life running after what you want, running away from what you don't want, didn't you? And yet you're sitting here trying to figure out what to do about it. All right? All right. Then you catch on. The problem is not that something distracts you for or against. That's not the problem. Shh. Therefore, that's not the answer of what to do about it. You're trying to solve what's not the problem. Well, what's the problem? Why can't you handle that? Why can't you handle what? Why can't you handle this person walked by, nothing happened, that person walked by, nothing happened, that person walked by, and all this stuff started happening inside? Well, what? I asked you a question. Can you handle that? Can you handle that noise started inside without doing anything about it? Not renouncing, not running away, not running toward, just, okay, I'm weird. Bunch of stuff went by, nothing happened inside. Now that went by, and it got weird inside. I guess I'm weird. Can I handle being weird? That's spirituality. Yukteswar told Yogananda, an ignored guest quickly leaves. If you go with it, it stays. If you fight it to throw it out, it'll fight you back. If you just ignore it, okay, this thing came up. The question is not, did she distract you? Did what come up distract you? What if what came up didn't distract you? How are you doing? How was your lunch? It wasn't so good. It didn't sit really well. How are you doing? Fine. It ain't the first time I ate something that didn't feel good. It'll be fine in a couple of hours. But what are you doing about it? Nothing. Oh, take Pepto-Bismol or Alka-Seltzer. Are you kidding? It makes me feel worse. Well, I don't understand how you can live with the fact that your stomach doesn't feel good. Okay. Maybe you got some learning to do. It's not so hard, right? Go play a sport and bend your finger a little bit. Volleyball or something, all right? You go home? Stop the whole game? Well, it hurts. I understand it hurts. Can't you play? No, it hurts. In other words, the distraction of a slightly bent finger, you're not able to handle. So is the problem that the finger is distracting, or is the problem that you can't handle that the finger is distracting? If you're an athlete, you don't even mention it. You tape it up a little bit maybe if you need to. You get back out there, nothing would stop you. It doesn't distract you enough. Does that mean it doesn't hurt? I don't care. It just hurts a little bit. It doesn't hurt enough to make me not play. It doesn't distract me enough to where I'm not willing to go about my life. In other words, you can handle the fact that it was distracting and not doing. You don't get distracted by the fact that it was distracting. There's the best I can say it to you. That's your spiritual growth. That's what witness consciousness is. That's what acceptance is. That's what all the deep teachings are. Okay? Are you willing to sit there and say, I like her a lot, and she came by and she said really nice things, and I feel kind of comfortable, but then she didn't say hello when she walked by. She acted like she didn't even know me. How did that feel? Terrible. I don't have to say it felt wonderful. It didn't. It felt terrible. Are you okay with that? Or are you going to be weird next time you see her? Why'd you walk by me? Why'd you say that? What? Huh? God? How you going to be? How about we just say, oh, I have a problem. I was fine when she said hello, and I wasn't fine when she didn't say hello. I'm weird. I tell Mickey, if he gets that way about someone, he doesn't, but if someone say hello, so I tell him there's 7.5 billion people on the planet Earth. They didn't say hello either. Why are you getting all uptight about one? In other words, you work with yourself. You don't work with getting what you want. You don't work with avoiding, right? You work with yourself. That's where the problem is. Why are you distracted by something he's not? Because there's something going on inside. And you start paying attention to that. But you can't pay attention until you can handle it. So what spirituality becomes is, I used to not be able to handle a bunch of stuff, now I can. Very good. That doesn't sound very spiritual, really. When you couldn't handle it, you were distracted by it. You had to do something about it. You got weird. Now that you can handle it, you're not distracted by it. But what happens if you get sick? Well, I'll get sick. But it used to bother you to even think about it. Yeah, it doesn't anymore. Why? I just am working with people that are sick, and I realize there's growth everywhere, and there's things to learn. I'm kind of fascinated by medicine also, So if I got to learn on my own body, what if you did that? Right? Then all of a sudden, it's not distracting you as much. This is called acceptance. This is called relax and release. This is called, if the item outside is distracting, either for or against, okay. We'll talk about it in a moment. Why? There's a reason why, but don't worry about it. Why? Because the question is, what are you going to do about it? And the answer is, I'm going to let it go. Oh, God. I told you the understanding is simple. The application is a little more interesting. You're going to let what go? I thought you were not going to renounce. I didn't say I was going to let it go. I'm going to let go of what come up inside of me because she showed up and she's either scaring me or attracting me. If something happens and it offends you, let it go. Don't stop it and ask for an apology and make a big deal out of it, right? Just understand that this was something that happened inside of me, and if I'm able to handle the fact that it happened, it isn't bothersome. If something happens and it causes some fear or jealousy or insecurity to come up inside of you, and you're okay with that, and you just breathe a little bit and it passes, it did not distract you enough to pull you out of the ecstasy. That's when you're really going to start to understand these teachings. When you start to feel this flow, sometimes it's slight and sometimes it's very strong, but you start to feel this beautiful, beautiful energy inside, and then you realize you're going about your business feeling very high, very beautiful, and you say hello to somebody, they don't say hello, or you see something they don't like, whatever it is, and you always have a choice. Leave this for that? I'm going to leave this ecstasy because a roach ran across the floor? I don't think so. Okay? And you start making the choices that I ain't leaving this. Okay? Well, even though you're not experiencing it all the time, you are making that choice. If something distracts you and you can't handle it and you get all involved in it, you chose to make it a bigger deal than it would have been. So eventually you catch on that what I need to do is be able to handle myself, not handle situations outside, handle my reaction to the situations outside. It is always about working on yourself. It is never about working on getting things outside the way you want it so you don't have to work on yourself, right? Like if I have a choice, right? If I have a problem with people not saying hello when I say hello to them, there's a lot of people that might not say hello. Why don't I just deal with the problem instead of I have to deal with one thing instead of 7.5 billion? You understand that? You start working on yourself. That's what it's about. And that's why I teach letting go. And that's why I teach relax and release. And that's why I teach surrender. What you're doing is things outside will distract you. They do it. Things inside distract you, your thoughts and emotions. The question is, you are the consciousness. Are you capable of saying, I don't want to go there. I'm not going to renounce it. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm just going to let it come and go. Everything comes and goes. If somebody says something to you that makes your heart hurt, it won't stay that way until you get into it and make it stay that way. Otherwise, they said something and it goes away, and then you're glad you didn't say anything. Have you noticed? Glad you didn't do anything about it, right? You start letting go of yourself. You let go of the part of you that caused the distraction. Now, I told you a moment ago, I explained to you why certain things distract you and other things don't, and why they used to distract, now they don't distract you, and vice versa. It's very, very simple. We pick up our experiences. We have past experiences, some of which were pleasant, some of which weren't, et cetera, et cetera. You get them stuck inside of you. You hold on to them. So if something happened that was really pleasant some years ago, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call from somebody that was involved in that pleasant thing, you're not okay for the next few days to get to see that person. You're all distracted. You can't go to work. You're doing things. Your boyfriend or girlfriend wants to know what you're doing, what's happening, right? You're weird. Got it? Okay, you're weird. And likewise, if you get a phone call and somebody says, I have something terrible to tell you. Oh, my God. Right? And they get cut off. Ooh, you're weird after that call. You're not okay at all. Why? Because you've had past experiences that were not pleasant. You don't want them to happen again. So when something happens outside that reminds you of those past experiences, you get distracted by that. You get involved in that. You want to do something about it. Likewise, you had experiences that were pleasant. If something happens that reminds you of that, you want to grab it, you want to get it. It is these, we call them samskaras, these patterns from the past that you stored inside your psyche that are determining what you're distracted by. I said a moment ago, just make sure you get this. I said a moment ago, you're not distracted by the white lines in the road. You drive by them all the time, don't you? How many times do you stop and check them out? Or freak out because the white lines are yellow? No, they're there. You pay attention to them, but they don't distract you. What if you were one of the line painters and the machine wasn't working well, and so you had driplets, you've seen them, driplets going all over the place, and your boss drove by there, saw that, didn't even care about the machine, and he fired you. Okay? You got fired because of the way the lines were that were coming out off the machine. Right? I'm telling you, 2-3 years later, you're driving down a road in a whole other city, whole other state, and you start seeing some drips around the lines. You're distracted. Nobody else is, but you're distracted, aren't you? Right? You think about that, everything comes back up, your whole day's ruined. That's what's happening. Your past experiences, you couldn't handle them, so you kept them inside of you, bad and good. And so now when things happen that remind you of them, they stimulate these samskaras, and they come back up. And therefore you either feel attracted or repulsed based upon your past experiences. That's what Skinner, the social psychologist, teaches you. Man is the sum of his learned experiences. It is not true. You are the consciousness that is aware that your psyche, your emotions, your mind, your psychological being is the sum of your learned experiences. And therefore that's what determines whether you're distracted or not. It's meaningless. In other words, something distracts you so much that you move and you don't want to be anywhere. What if the thing didn't happen? There weren't white lines. You didn't get fired. You could keep living where you were living. You didn't get divorced from your family. You're not freaked out every time you see a white line. Do you understand that? Just because one experience changed? Oh my God, that's insulting. We're supposed to be high beings. And you start catching on, I'm not going to let that happen. And I let what happen? First, I'm not going to store that stuff inside of me. The less you store inside of you, what does that mean? It means if something happens and it doesn't feel good, I will experience the don't feel good and I will let it go. It ain't staying inside of me. If Sally didn't say hello when I saw her and my mind got a little upset, next time I see Sally, I ain't bringing it up. I don't need to bring it up. It was me. It's a problem I have. If indeed there's something wrong with me and Sally, it'll show up. I don't need to let my weirdness do this stuff to protect myself or challenge her. Why didn't you say hello? You find out she had earbuds in and you'll be embarrassed. Okay? So you just let go. You realize experiences are going to happen. They will tend to leave impressions because you can't handle them. Handle them. Let them go. Everything should go. The more you let go of this stuff you stored inside, the less that stuff will distract you. It's as simple as that. All right? And the less the stuff distracts you, the more you feel joy. Until eventually, if a leaf falls, you feel ecstasy. If a bird sings, you feel ecstasy. If you're sitting alone in your house, right? You're just sitting alone in your house. You don't know what's going on. All of a sudden, you're just in ecstasy. You're just feeling joy. For how long? As long as you want. That is your natural state. That is what's supposed to happen. Well, you can't do that. Why? If you sit alone, you think about what you're missing. You think about what happened yesterday that you didn't like. You get distracted by yourself. It doesn't take things outside to distract you, does it? The way you free yourself is to become comfortable with yourself. So comfortable that it doesn't need to distract you. So if you got divorced years ago and you still have this junk coming up and it distracts your life, learn to let go. Don't go see him or, do something to try and fix it. Let go. First, let go. How? That's the problem. You people have a problem. You don't believe you can do that. You can do it anytime you want. If there's a rattlesnake inside the room and somebody tells you he's been depoisoned, it doesn't matter. You're still all scared. Well, maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe you should be willing to work with yourself and say, it's okay. It's okay. If you got divorced 7 years ago and he died 3 years ago, but you're still weird about it, maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe you don't have to justify because how bad he was. It's okay that you're still weird. Maybe you don't want to have all these distracting things inside of you. Maybe you would rather feel the experience of the joy inside. That's what a yogi does. A yogi sits there and says, I already know where the answer is. It's inside of me, and I'm going to spend my life not getting things or avoiding things, letting go of the part of me that thinks the answer is to get things, that's distracted by things. And you little by little keep letting go. And I'm telling you, it works. The more you can let go, the less you get distracted. Why? Because you let go of the part that gets distracted. Christ called it dying to be reborn. Right? You literally just, it falls off. Like Mom said, it was like shed the skin, the snake sheds its skin. It just gently falls off. And what's left? Something very beautiful. We're back to the greatness of your being. That's what's left. The most beautiful thing in the universe, you. Okay? So you do your work on a daily basis to notice that you get distracted by thoughts, emotions, and things. Don't think it's hopeless. You get distracted because you stored stuff inside of you instead of letting it go. So you start practicing letting go. You handle the weather, you handle the driver in front of you, you handle that somebody didn't call. You just keep saying, I want to handle it. And so you work with yourself. Instead of working with everybody else, you work with yourself. And the more you let go and the emptier you become, the more joy you will experience. But now you understand why. It's not mystical. It's because you are made of joy. That is your nature. And if you're not distracted away from the joy, you will feel the joy. So every time you're out there trying to get something so you feel good, you're actually running away from where you actually feel good. Yes, maybe if you get it just right and focus your consciousness, like I said, you can feel some joy. It will not last. It has never lasted for you. It has never lasted for anybody. Things don't have joy. The joy is inside of you. It is because the thing focused you that you felt more joy than you did before the thing happened. Don't worry, it won't last. There's a lot of junk inside of you. You hear me? And another person's not going to fix that. The vacation's not going to fix that. Do you hear me? It never has, never will. Momentarily you feel better. I'm interested in you not feeling bad. I'm interested in reaching a state where all you feel is joy, ecstasy, well-being. And then the question becomes, well, if I keep letting go, what happens to my life? That's why I wrote the Surrender Experiment. The Untethered Soul talks about letting go of this level, but the Surrender Experiment talks about what happens to your life if you do that. If you think nothing will happen in your life because you stop making it, who are you? The whole universe exists without you. You were born into a place that took 13.8 billion years to build. Everything's perfect. Everything's unbelievable. But nothing's going to happen unless you do it. That's some ego, baby. All right? And you start realizing everything's going to keep happening. All I've been doing is screwing it up. All I've been doing is trying to manipulate it to be the way I want. The sun will still rise. The moon will come out. The birds will sing. Everything will still go on. And people might even come up to you and say they love you without you doing anything to make it happen. Wouldn't that be far out? Whoa, right? And then they might stay with you even though you don't manipulate them and buy them and force them and worry and be jealous and be insecure. Whoa, wouldn't that be funny? And maybe somebody will offer you a job. And because you're so fun to be around, and because you focus yourself on your job so much, you'll get raises, and you'll do well in your career. And you never even thought about it. You never even wanted it. All you want to do is stay in the joy and the ecstasy. And the next thing you know, you go to work, and you're not going to get paid. You're not going to prove yourself. You're going because you feel joy, and so much joy, I need to express it. So I'll take care of patients, or I'll earn money, or I'll do this. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You're doing it because you feel so much joy you have to express yourself. You don't even call it working. You know how you know when you're there? When on Friday, on payday, you don't even understand why they're giving you this money. I mean, they're paying you, right? If you're an artist, you want to paint and you want to go out to the woods, and all of a sudden somebody comes and gives you $3 million for your painting. That's weird. You weren't trying to sell it. You know what I mean? That's what your whole life becomes. The Bible says it. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. That is not the law of attraction. That is not the great secret they're teaching you. That is sitting there saying, I'm caught. I have things I need and things I don't need. So I'm going to meditate on them and contemplate them and use mantras to get what I want. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It's just another way to be sick. It's another way to weird yourself out. Then you wonder why it's not happening. What am I doing wrong? Am I doing the mantra wrong? Is God mad at me? I literally have people talk to me like that. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. His righteousness is not first get what you want. It's sitting there saying first let go of yourself. Come back to the higher state. Seek that. That's the kingdom of God and righteousness. Christ said the kingdom is within you. That's literally where it is, all right? So seek ye first the kingdom of God's righteousness means come back to the soul. Come back to the seat of self. The rest will take care of itself. It has done just fine for 13.8 billion years. Do you understand that? I just don't understand how big the ego is. It seems to be doing pretty well everywhere you're not. You don't seem to be complaining about all that. Okay, well, what will happen if I don't run everything that's happening in China, everybody's household, and everybody's relationship, and all the children? You don't do that, do you? No, only what's in front of you weirds you out. And so you get to the point where you realize if you let go, it will be fine. If you seek the deeper parts of your being, the joy, the love will attract everybody. Don't worry about it. And life will unfold. Will you get what you want? It's not about getting what you want. Will you be left alone to experience the joy of your being and then share that with others at your work, in your relationship? Yes, that's what happens. And it's all effortless. How would you like to have an effortless life? The joy is effortless. The love is effortless. You owe nobody anything. You're just experiencing the liberation. It's called liberation, isn't it? That's Jivan Mukta, the liberated soul. Right? So I hope you understand these things. You're a very beautiful, very great being. You just need to find your way back to self. Jai Gurudev.